As you know, I've been building these Aeolian harps, which are played by the wind, and I've also been building a robotic version of this, which is played by electromagnetism. The problem is that all of the instruments that I've built so far sound really wimpy. They're just not that loud. And in a previous video, I showed how to make more electromagnetism to try to make the instruments louder that way. And today I want to show you how to make the instrument itself louder. And to start with, I got tons of really great suggestions and feedback about this in the comments of my previous video. I'm always in awe of just how much creativity and knowledge all of you have collectively. So thank you for sharing that. I've also been reading some books on the topic, including this one, and this is perhaps a bit of a tangent, but this instrument here is a replica of an Aeolian harp designed by Henry David Thoreau, and it's supposed to be loud by using the entire window as a soundboard. And this is certainly an interesting idea, although I don't actually plan on putting my robotic one in the window anyway, and I'm a little skeptical of how well this would work, but just knowing that Henry David Thoreau was thinking about this question actually kind of ruins it, in my opinion. That guy was such an idiot. But anyway, this is the book that really straightened out my thinking on this topic. I would highly recommend this book to anyone who's interested in this. And so for this instrument to be loud, I need the strings to be driving the soundboard kind of up and down like a speaker. And now that I look at this, I can see exactly what the problem is, which is that my bridges kind of have a confused function. Are they there to transfer energy into the soundboard, or are they just there to support the strings? Because they're not doing either very well. Like, the bridge isn't exactly sitting on top of this hardwood block that's underneath there where it could provide maximum support for the strings, but it's also not far enough away from the hardwood block to be able to effectively move the soundboard. Moreover, my bridges are long enough that they're basically braced up against the sides of the instrument, which means that in order to move the soundboard up and down, the bridges need to flex like this. But these things are made of oak. They're completely inflexible, and almost no energy is going into the soundboard, which is why a lot of musical instruments like this tend to have smaller bridges that are kind of further out on the soundboard. In fact, in this book, the authors built a few different Aeolian harps, including this one here, which has these mini movable bridges. And they don't say whether or not this is louder than the other Aeolian harps that they built, but it must be. In fact, even if I just wedge a random piece of wood underneath the strings of this Aeolian harp, it immediately gets much louder. Okay, I feel like that didn't come across very well in the recording, but in person it is incontrovertible. It is much louder. I'll come back to that later so you can hear it better. The other thing that you probably don't need me to tell you is that plywood is not the traditional soundboard material. So I got this beautiful piece of pine with 0 knots in it, but it's way too thick. And you know how sometimes you wake up in the morning with a brilliant idea and you leap out of bed because you're so excited to go and pursue this idea? And you know how sometimes the correct thing to have done with that idea would have been to just go back to bed? Yeah, I don't know. Screw this. Anyway, so here's the finished soundboard. And then here I have a piece of plywood that's about the same size and the same thickness. And the pine definitely sounds different than the plywood. In person, I was trying to convince myself that the pine sounds a little bit more resonant, like a bell. Ding, ding. whereas the plywood sounds a little bit more like a dry thud, although the recording certainly doesn't sound like that. That might have just been wishful thinking on my part. Anyway, so then I glued this soundboard to an Aeolian Harp body. And I already have a whole video on how I make these things, so you can check that out if you're interested. But I did a few things differently on this one. So the new one has the same tailpiece as the original one, but the new one then has this movable bridge here, and this is just for transferring energy into the soundboard. Of course, this means that you necessarily lose a little bit of string length on this side of the instrument. So the bridge on the other side of the instrument I put all the way at the very edge of the instrument, but that's kind of a better place for it anyway, because this one just has the function of supporting the string. And that means that I had to put the tuning pegs around the side of the instrument over here. And then I also made this little arch piece so that when I eventually make a lid for this, it'll be held up above the strings. So yeah, now I'd like to know, is this any louder than the original one? So here I've got just a plank of wood with a nylon B string on it. Then I have my original Aeolian harp, the new Aeolian harp, and a guitar. And they all have the same B string tuned to the same pitch, same length, same tension. And I'm going to try to pluck them all the same. And then I'll record this with a condenser mic up here. You guys, you've got to buy more contact mics from me so I can afford a mic stand. What the hell am I doing? And then I also put metal B strings on these three instruments. Yeah, so to my ear, in person, the original Aeolian harp is only a little bit louder than the plank of wood. But the new Aeolian harp is much louder. In fact, it's almost as loud as the guitar, but the guitar sounds better. If anything, the Aeolian harp is a bit nasal. But overall, this is a really big improvement. And I still kind of want to know how much of this improvement is due to the soundboard and how much is due to the bridge. So again, I'm going to try wedging a movable bridge under the strings of my original Aeolian harp. Yeah, so I'm still not sure exactly how well that's coming across in the recording. To me, it sounds like the original one is almost as loud as the new one when it has the bridge in there. So if any of you have one of these Aeolian harps, I might recommend wedging something in there. And if I make any more of these in the future, I'm definitely going to use the new bridge design, but I'll probably keep using the plywood soundboard because the pine was kind of too much cost and effort for diminishing returns. So the other thing I've been working on is this. It's a little guitar sustainer circuit that incorporates everything I learned in my previous videos. And this is also computer controllable. And this maybe needs a little bit more refinement, but once I've done that, I think I'd like to offer this for sale as a kit. And I'd also like to just open source the whole thing. So my next video will probably be on my other channel, Metal Marshmallow, and I'll explain how you can make one of these yourself, either by assembling the kit or just by making it on your own from scratch. And so here's what it sounds like. Yeah, so I'm really happy with that. The sound that you heard there was just recorded through the condenser mic, and I didn't add any reverb or anything like that. I've already shown in previous videos that this thing can sound fantastic if it's recorded and processed in the correct way. But this is the first one that really sounds good in person. And this is really strong and it works really well even when it's a pretty good distance away from the string, so you don't have to have the string buzzing up against it like those wimpy little coils I was using before. And I'm actually really surprised how loud it is. I think it's maybe not quite loud enough to wake my neighbors up, but it's probably loud enough to annoy them. And I also tweaked the overtone mode on this a little bit, and now it produces overtones really nicely. Although that also depends on the exact position of each of the coils. And then for my next video on this channel, I need to build some sort of lid for this to hold the sustainer in place above the string. And in fact, I'd like to have 12 sustainers, one per string. And I'd also like to be able to kind of adjust their position in 3 dimensions so I can get them exactly where I want them. But anyway, I think that's enough of that for now. I'm really excited with the progress I've made so far. And thank you all so much for watching. As usual, please subscribe, like, leave comments, and all that kind of crap. And I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!